Don't look for the needle in the haystack, just buy the haystack. Quote John Bogle, founder of Vanguard Group. This is essentially what ETFs allow you to do, giving you broad exposure to markets without the need for individual stock picking, and this explains why they are increasingly more popular among investors of all demographics, with or without experience. We'll start with a popular top-down approach for investing, starting from the macroeconomy down to the sectors and then individual stocks. You see, ETFs trade like stocks but are actually collections of stocks or assets, giving you exposure to the broader markets without focusing on individual companies like I said earlier. And hence, it is crucial for you to have this diagram in mind before you even buy into any ETFs. In simpler terms, you are actually investing in either the country's economy or a particular sector within the economy, or whichever combination that may be depending on the ETF structure, but it won't run too far from these two. And I'm telling you all this because I don't want you to invest in ETFs for the sake of, oh, I heard the S&P 500 is very good, so you just buy into them. No. The reason why you heard the S&P 500 is very good is because it covers 500 of the largest companies in the US market, and that usually means high growth technology companies in the largest capital market in the world where most of the money flows, and also where the world's reserve currency US dollar lies in. Hence why you are actually investing largely into the US economy instead. My point is to understand what to do, which ETF to invest in this case, is to know how to do it, research and reading, etc. But to know how to do it, you will first need to know why you are doing it in the first place, which is precisely your investment objective. And that brings me to the ETF's fact sheet, which is basically a PDF document that summarizes the entire ETF, which you can easily find online with a simple Google search. And to simplify your research, you can use apps like Moomoo, which is a sponsor of this video. Look for them under Fund and click into Profile, and you should be able to find them over there. The overview section will show you everything you need to know about the ETF all at a glance. But if you want more, you can also go into their fact sheet under the ETF documents section and look for this part where it says investment approach and about the benchmark, usually at the top part of any ETF fact sheet, to clearly understand and align yourself with the ETF's investment objective and also their strategy. So in this case, you can see that it's tracking the performance of the S&P 500 index, basically large market cap equity or companies in the US. Remember the top-down approach from earlier? This is where it tells you what you are investing your money into. And this brings me to my next point, geographic diversification. Since ETFs focus on broader markets rather than on individual companies, I said that many times already, understanding the macroeconomic and geopolitical landscape becomes ever more crucial because you are also indirectly buying into everything the nation has to offer, good or bad. Let's say the S&P 500 ETF like this one, which provides you exposure towards the US economy. We are essentially also buying into its diverse culture with more than 333 million people and 33 million businesses in it. Its currency, aka the US dollar, how the Federal Reserve controls the economy, how the Democrats and Republicans run the country, how they handle incentives and also subsidies for different sectors of the economy, how they handle geopolitical tensions or even trades with different countries in the world. All of these combined, plus so many more, are what affects the GDP of the nation. Look, my objective here is not to tell you which country or governance structure is good or bad. Every country essentially has its own issue. The European countries or the United States is no exception as well. It's your job as an investor to understand and weigh the risk you are getting yourself into, and then diversify yourself accordingly. Speaking of which, another category of diversification after geographical region is the sector diversification, and I can't emphasize this enough because this is what makes an ETF unique as compared to individual stock picking. You can basically gain exposure to any individual sector that you want, or even combine them or together in the form of an index. or different investment themes as well, each of which will perform differently depending on the stock market cycle, just like the 4 seasons in some other countries. I mean, obviously, other than Malaysia, of course, it's always summer here. You see, the stock market performs correspondingly to how the economy is doing concurrently. If the economy is doing well, meaning consumers are spending more, businesses are investing and expanding, then cyclical sectors like technology, consumer discretionary, industrials, and financial services will tend to perform better. Just like how Tesla skyrocketed back in 2021 because interest rates are low and the cost of fund is getting cheaper. Hence, people have more money to splurge on buying new vehicles. And vice versa, when the interest rates are high and consumers are more selective with their spending, corporate revenues will decrease, and hence cyclical stocks like Tesla will suffer. But the ones outperforming in that situation would be utilities and consumer staples companies. And just because you are spending less outside doesn't mean you will need less electricity or groceries or even healthcare to go by your day, right? Hence why the defensive sectors tend to perform better than cyclical stocks in such a climate. I mean, you can just use the heat map feature on the Moomoo app and you can immediately see on days or even seasons when the cyclical internet and software companies are down, the defensive sectors like utilities and beverage will tend to go up. It's really amazing to see it happening in real time, and it doesn't get old for me even as an investor. But before I move on, I just want to give a quick shout out to Moomoo, which I'm sure by now you have seen how useful their app is for an investor, be it for ETFs or even for individual stocks. There are actually a ton more features that I could not possibly fit it all into this video, like the Morningstar ratings, which is a very reputable source of information that essentially provides the data to many sites such as Yahoo Finance themselves. And did you know that I used to pay $249 annually for Morningstar subscription? Now, with Moomoo, many of these features are available for free. This in itself is already a huge steal for many investors like myself. And they are currently running a limited time campaign where you can get a 100 ringgit cash reward when you deposit 1000 ringgit. And if you use my exclusive link down below to sign up, you can get an extra 40 ringgit cash reward as well. And on top of that, you can also get extra free 400 ringgit cash reward when you deposit 10,000 ringgit. But not only that, to make it even better, you can also get a free Nvidia share worth around 500-ish ringgit by depositing 30,000 ringgit and then buying 3 trades. Just 3 trades, which gives you around 3.7% return immediately, or about 44% annualized return. So quickly, before the promotion ends. Now, the next thing that could make or break your ETF investment is the ETF's expense ratio. Basically, it's the fee you pay to the ETF for helping you to invest your hard-earned money. Say if you invest $10,000, a 0.03% per annum expense ratio from say the VOO ETF would mean a $3 fee every year, and this fee is automatically deducted from your investment returns, so you don't have to do anything about it. But that doesn't mean you don't have to care about it at all, because like I've said earlier, the expense ratio of an ETF can literally make or break your investment returns over the long run. Let's say today you want to invest $10,000 each into 2 different ETFs, a low fee ETF A with 0.03% expense ratio and another high fee ETF B with 0.3% expense ratio. Assuming it's giving you a 10% annualized return just like the S&P 500 index, you can see that from a period of up to 30 years, you will be losing more and more money, and even go up to the 4 and 5 digits even. And mind you, this is on a $10,000 one-off investment. What if you invest more at $50,000 at the start, and let's assume you add $5,000 every year? You can see that the impact of the fees just compounds and skyrockets so much more over the year. But that's not to say a low fee ETF is the only choice you should go for. Certain ETFs are actively managed and will come with a higher expense ratio. They might not outperform the S&P 500 just like many actively managed funds today, but in certain rare cases, some investors just want a specialized investment exposure that they couldn't find elsewhere. there's no right or wrong, to each of their own right. And just because it underperforms against the market today doesn't mean it won't outperform the market in the future. And this gives me the perfect segue for me to talk about historical performance. And I'm sure you heard of this saying, past performance is not an indicator of future performance. While I agree, that's true to a certain extent. In the case of an ETF, history, especially the bigger picture, tends to repeat itself because take the S&P 500 index for example. They are structured to eliminate underperformers and then bring in outperformers. And since US is the world's largest capital market and US dollar being the world's reserve currency, the performance trend for a diversified investment like this tend to stay over the long run, until of course it's being disrupted by external factors such as a competing currency or economy in this context. I mean, this chart by the IMF pretty much sums up everything you need to know. Even though the US dollar has been losing its share of the FX reserves or foreign currencies, it still took them more than 20 years to go from around 70%-ish to 60-ish%. Like it or not, I would say, unless there's a major shift in the world economy, at this pace, it would probably take more than our lifetime to see the US dollar lose its ground. But anyways, back to the fact sheet. In every ETF's performance history, you will often see them quote their returns in two forms: net asset value (NAV) return and also the market price return. Now, without getting too technical, NAV basically reflects the actual value of their underlying stocks, while market price reflects the price that investors or traders that are willing to pay for them. Basically, for long-term investors, you can focus on the NAV return instead because this shows you the actual performance of the underlying stocks. But for all intents and purposes, their differences are usually very marginal. So it's not a huge deal if you refer to the market price return instead. And before you ask, certain ETFs do pay dividends. Like in this case, you can see from the dividends section under the fund tab that VOO has a dividend yield of about 1.33% and they pay dividends on a quarterly basis or 4 times a year. And yes, the historical returns that you see on the fact sheets are usually inclusive of their dividends, meaning capital gains plus dividends paid out to shareholders. And since we are on the topic of return, it's essential for me to remind you that all investments do come with risk as well. And yes, the standard valuation ratios such as the PE ratio or the PB ratio are still important for you to benchmark and compare against its comparable ETFs. But let me take it one level deeper for you to evaluate your ETFs better. Introducing the beta and Sharpe ratios. Beta basically tells you how much the ETF's price move as compared to the overall market, like the S&P 500. You can basically get the beta of an ETF if you tap into the indicator analysis under the fund tab, and it comes in a simple form of number. So let's say if the S&P 500 is 1, if you look at another ETF, say the VGT ETF that tracks the US technology sector, it comes with a beta of around 1.27, higher than 1. And therein, you know this ETF is actually more volatile as compared to the S&P 500. And just by plotting the beta of popular US ETFs against the S&P 500, you can quickly identify which ETFs have higher risk and also potential reward, and vice versa, lower risk and reward. That's super helpful, right? Now, on the other hand, Sharpe ratio tells you the risk-adjusted return of an ETF. Higher means better risk to reward ratio and vice versa. And just like beta, if I were to plot all of them in a graph, you can immediately see which ETF has a better risk-adjusted return. And for those with a higher Sharpe ratio as compared to the S&P 500, you can probably start researching on them instead. It's a super neat way to help you filter out the winners and save you a ton of research time. So, I'm sure you can tell by now, ETF investments are rather similar to stock investing, but simpler if I may, and coupled with the right tools such as the Moomoo app or even online platforms like Morningstar, it really does make our life so much more easier. And while of course it's easy to go for the quote-unquote best, remember to diversify your portfolio or not. Ultimately, it depends or it ties back to your investment goal. Sometimes a concentrated portfolio with the right research might work in your favor as well. Basically, my point is, don't just diversify for the sake of diversification. As Peter Lynch once said, know what you own and know why you own it. I hope this video helped. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more content like this. Until then, if you are still unsure which ETF you should start your investment journey with, this video was made precisely for you. See you over there.